everybody, and welcome to the Brewing Labs. Before we decide to get onto deck tech, I decided to open a kind of like mysterious secret lair that I actually got. Don't know who sent it. It was kind of like the address a little bit scribbled, but it could just be a custom one, just someone sent it to be nice. Nevertheless, let's actually see what's in this. Okay, it's a Tibalt's Trickery and a Tibalt's Trickery. What the heck? Oh, there's a note in the box. Hello. If you want to get the actual card that you deserve,
play with this card in the next Brewing Labs.
Signed, Tibalt. P.S. Make sure I'm also in the deck list, or else.
No!
Okay. Well, I guess we are brewing around Tibalt's Trickery for this episode of the Brewing Labs. Hello everybody, and welcome to a Forced Trickery episode of the Brewing Labs. Now, as stated before, due to the sketch, I have to do a favor for Tibalt to actually get some of my cardboard back that I actually really want back, so I have to make at least a few decks with him. Yeah, one of them is going to be a Alchemy variation, and we're brewing around the feature card, Tibalt's Trickery. Most people in the Eternal formats, as you could probably point with how many cards this is not legal in the following, pretty much Historic and Arena, or Traditional Historic, or the Historic Shakeup, but also this card has caused quite a bit of shenanigans within Eternal formats, I think it's safe to say. But it's still legal and standard, as well as Alchemy. For those who don't know, it's a 1 and a red for a instant counter-target spell. So red gets counter magic. Okay, but what's the catch? Well, you choose 1, 2, or 3 at random, then you mill that many cards of what you chose, and then you exile cards on the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with a different name than the spell that you countered. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost, and they may put the exiled cards on the bottom of their library in a random order. So the basic catch-22 premise here is you're going to essentially... The way this is intentionally designed is you're mostly just using this as a... You try to counter an opponent's spell, and you hope they don't get something better than what you countered. Because kind of like the thing with Magic with on-curve plays, sometimes there are times where you are going to use Tibalt's Trickery as a counterspell. Like, sometimes you want to try to get rid of a turn-free Angel and such, like the one that gains you life that everybody always is a little bit annoyed about on Twitter. I always forget the name of it. We'll probably see it sometime if we play against Clarence in this video and such, but editor, you could probably point it over there and such. And then there's, like, essential plays, like maybe a turn 5 board wipe. There's also the classic extra turn shenanigans. So sometimes being able to counter a critical point is actually a lot more valuable than whatever free spell they get from it, presuming you're not going against Izzet and you give them a free Hullbreaker Horror. However, as many people who had experienced this in Historic as well as Eternal formats know, the basic catch-22 shtick of this is what you want to really do with Tibalt's Trickery is actually counter your own spells. Like, you counter a cheap spell, which we have a few in the deck, such as Consider, just good card draw, Fading Hope, Tempo Bounce, as well as Spikefield Hazard as just semi-early game removal. Your basic premise, you want to counter really low-cost spells to, as you can see with our high-end curve, cheap out into some pretty silly stuff. That is the basic playstyle that people have done when playing Tibalt's Trickery for the most part, and yet again, we're kind of being in that style with this Gritz's Alchemy deck. So, we already talked about the 1-drops, we already know about Tibalt's Trickery. We also put Valky, God of Lies, as well as Tibalt, Cosmic Imposter. Yeah, you can probably guess why I put these in here. One nifty thing to know about this is Valky is really nice for hand disruption, but if you do get it out of Tibalt's Trickery, you can choose either side when casting it. So you can cast either Tibalt's Cosmic Imposter or Valky, God of Lies. Let's be frank, most of the times if you're cheating it out, you want to cast Tibalt Cosmic Imposter because it's a very powerful 7-cost Planeswalker. Being able to semi-card draw, as well as exile stuff, and even exile graveyards. Very powerful Planeswalker. Plus also the Jeff Morokish... forgive me if my pronunciation of your last name. Jeff Muracola. Essentially, showcase art is... Next up, we have our free drops, which is Divide by Zero. Just as all people who played against Izzet, or any variation of Izzet, know that this is a very powerful card in the current meta, just being able to tempo bounce more or less, and then get anything in our lesson package, which is your general lesson package of mascots, introduction, start from scratch, teaching the cards. Environmental science, if you've seen a learn package, you kind of know what you're getting for, essentially. So you can pretty much accommodate with any lesson package you prefer, but mostly I would say make sure to have at least 1 or 2 mascot expeditions, as well as 1 teaching of the archaics for semi-card draw. You can even get to 2 actually teaching of the archaics. I could see some brews actually do that. Nevertheless, we do this to bounce either a spell or a problematic permanent, and also just get the semi-card draw. However, one thing with the lesson package in general, there are maybe times where we want to discard a card into our graveyard just to semi-loot. That's not bad. Keep that in mind, and you can do that with the Learn package. We're also running Prismari Command. This is our last free drop spell until we get to like the 4 and greater, just because it's a very good situational spell. Just being able to essentially either deal damage, destroy an artifact, or semi-card draw or ramp. Very nice. It's a very powerful card in multiple Eternal formats. Then we have one of our Alchemy exclusive cards, Key to the Archive. Everybody knows this card. It's a very, very powerful card, giving us access to some of the more powerful spells in Magic. Plus, also just the ability to essentially have ramp with the Mana Rock. Very, very nice, especially if we don't do the Trickery shenanigans. And even just tricking into a Mana Rock that does give us gives us ramp and a semi-card draw, not bad. We also are running, this was inspired by, specifically, I want to make sure I get this username right, because I thought this was actually a really cool, kind of like, take. I was actually playing against them. They were playing kind of like a clones list in variation. It's My Lizard, I believe it's their username. Very fun, kind of like content brew, or not. I'm not sure if they do content creation or such, but they do some fun arena deck brews. And they actually decided to throw Mirror Hall Mimic in their variation of the list, and I realized that both for the flavor of both just bulky and Tibalt, copy and yada yada yada. But this is actually a very good card in this deck. Mostly because it can copy some of our late game creatures and make duplicates of it, which is very nice. But there are times when playing this list, you're going to have your opponent have a good board presence, and you really need to get something on the defensive. So being able to use Mirror Hall Mimic to actually copy something from the opponent, very nice. And even Ghastly Mimicry can also work as well, because even if you put it on a creature an opponent controls, you still control the copy of the aura, so you still get the copy at the beginning of your upkeep. So very, very nice to keep in mind. And now we get into the late drops of what we're trying to ramp into. We have, of course, Tibalt Ricket Tormentor, because it's an Alchemy exclusive card. It's nice ramp, it's nice semi-card draw by being able to have the exile ability, semi-removal-ish, also semi-card draw, and also just making a bunch of tokens is actually very, very, very nice for this list. Like, you do have access to some pretty good cards that are in this class archetype, let's just say. Then we have Burn Down the House. Mostly this is our semi-board wipe in the deck. And the reason why I'm doing this is because if we do, quote-unquote, cheat it out with Tibalt's Trickery, if we don't want to do the board wipe, we have the choice of tokens, which is very, very nice. I do have to admit, if you ever run like a Tibalt's Trickery list and you need to run a board wipe, Burn Down the House is kind of the most fitting board wipe to run in your deck design, because it allows you with the versatility. Pretty much any card that has the ability of you to have multiple choices, such as the Prismari Commands in the world, the multi-commands in the world, it's nice to have those within your deck design so you have choices so you can accommodate to whatever the board presence is at the moment. But still, very powerful board wipe. I did want to run Meathead Massacre, but I kind of came to the realization that cheaping it out with Tibalt's Trickery feels a little anticlimactic, so yeah, maybe if you play this into a best of 3 and have a 15-card sideboard, maybe you could put like 1 or 2 of them in your sideboard, but we had to cut that card out of the list because cheaping out with Tibalt's Trickery is a little bit meh. Then we have Goldspan Dragon, the nerfed variation within Alchemy, but still a very powerful card, just a 5-mana 4/4. Whenever it attacks, we're going to create treasure. And then our treasure doubles our mana. Very powerful, nice to make copies of, and also just a very good card in general. Also, another card that we do have to talk about is Leer, Disciple of the Drown. Spells can't be countered, which is very nice for our deck design. And then each instant sorcery card in our graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to the card's mana cost. Now, many cheeky people are going to try to point out something along the lines of, wait, why are you going to play Leer in a deck you're playing Tibalt's Trickery? Because when you try to counter your spell, it's not going to be countered. And that is what we call the point. This is actually, Tibalt's Trickery and Leer are very powerful together if you're incorporating that type of deck design. Mostly because when you're casting spells from your graveyard, you want to just get value from it. And getting Tibalt's Trickery to just, if we have the extra mana, to semi-counter a Prismarity command, or counter a Fading Hope. Even though not countering it, but maybe we really need to cast these spells, that allows us to both cast the spell that we're quote-unquote countering, as well as get the additional value of getting a spell from the top of our graveyard, or top of our, I say graveyard, brain fart, top of our library with the Tibalt's Trickery. So it's more of a way to modify spells while we're on the battlefield to make them more powerful, if that kind of makes sense. So yeah, these two cards actually are synergistic together, which, it's kind of weird to say, I'm not gonna lie. That could either tell you how powerful Leer is in the current standard format, or just the factor that, there is still shenanigans you can do with this card. Anyway, in our late game drop, we have, of course, the combo with Leer is Hullbreaker Horror. Just a giant Kraken that allows us to tempo, essentially by being able to bounce opponents' spells, as well as their non-land permanents. We can even bounce our own stuff to protect it. Very powerful card in the meta. It is a very, very scary fish. Also, the fact that it can't be countered is also very significant as well. We're also running two in our land slot, kind of Seagate Reborn as well as Seagate Restoration, because cheaping Tibalt's Trickery into it is not bad. Getting the semi-card draw is very, very good. And then Magma Opus. Mostly because this is not a card we don't mind being in our early hand. Being able to discard it, generate a treasure token to help us get extra mana to get into the cheaping Tibalt's Trickery or ramp into the late game and such. Very nice. And of course, the Magma Opus is a very powerful instant spell. Being able to deal 4 damage to fighters you choose upon a number of targets. And then you tap 2 target permanents, that's including the lands, keep that in mind. And then you create a 4/4 blue-red elemental creature token and draw 2 cards. It's a lot on this mythic, and it's a very powerful card. So then we get to our land base, which is 1 Hall of the Storm Giants, pretty much 1 of each basic within the Grits' color pair, running free Shipwreck Marsh. We're running a full playset of the Grits' Pathways, as well as Storm-Carved Coast, as well as just free Haunted Ridge. And that is the deck, primary, as you can see here with the stats. The curve is a little bit interesting due to the nature of the deck. But we're running 22 lands, mostly because we are running a lot of, essentially, the NDFC lands, with stuff like Seagate Restoration, as well as Spikefield Hazard. And that is the deck. As well, just one more time, look over the lesson sideboard. We have 2 Mascot Expeditions, 1 Introduction to Alienation, 1 Introduction to Prophecy, 1 Start from Scratch, 1 Teaching the Archaics, and 1 Environmental Sciences. Nevertheless, let's actually look at this deck on ladder and see what shenanigans it can provide of the Trickery variety. Okay, let's see. We're going against this interesting opponent's name. Slickstar, I believe is the way you pronounce it. Nevertheless, our hand is not bad. I mean, we wish for a 3rd land here, but we have card draw, we have tempo. We have more tempo once we get our 3rd land, so yeah, I think that's a keep once our opponent decides whether or not they want to keep their hand or not. Boo ba boo boo ba da boo. A da da dee da da doo. Ba da dee doo da 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 doo da doo ba ba da doo. Okay, we're gonna keep. Our opponent's running Dimir color sleeves, so makes me wonder if that's their color of choice for this deck design. We do see this, so that's an indication. So I'm just going to do Consider Now, just so that we get our 3rd land drop. Perfect. Then we're going to see, so they're black and... Is there a 2nd color? Yep, black and blue, so they are doing the Demir shenanigans. And looks like that of the zombie variety, which is not a bad archetype. Okay. Pretty powerful in the right deck archetype. So let's see here. Let's see what our opponent does next. That's a good card. Okay, we're not going to temple this to see if we can... Do we want another land? We have 4 lands, technically. We're going to go get that. This just essentially put that on the bottom. See if we can get into like stuff like this, which is very nice. And then here we have the choice of either Divided by Zero or Prismari Commanding. There's some pretty good choices here. We might want to save the Prismari command, though, for when they decide to make this into a man land, so we gotta keep that in mind. Okay, here, we'll just divide by 0. And what do I want to get? Let's see, their hands tend to be 1, 2, 3, 4. They can still recast that. I'll keep that in mind. I think here I'm going to get the environmental sciences, but potentially just discard it with the key to the archive. Mostly just to get the ramp, just in case if we draw into a Kraken or such. Plus, it can also maybe draw us into a potential board wipe if we need it. We could also just discard the Fate and Hope. I think that's the better option here, but first things first, we're going to play Key to the Archive. See if we get like a board wipe spell or just good removal. I mean, extra turns are always good, but Lightning Bolt is the removal we would want. Especially since they're going to cast this. But it's still, a extra turn is a extra turn. That's actually a hard choice. Let's think about this. As much as it's weird to pass an extra turn, I do think we want the removal here. Because we can, on sequence, just cast the removal, cast the tempo spell here. Though that was a really hard choice. Probably one of the rare times where someone's like, I don't need an extra turn. Okay, so our opponent plays their zombie friend, which makes sense. And they play another zombie friend, which makes sense. We could also make our own zombie friend if we want to. Do we have an incentive to? Not really in the grand scheme of things, but it's a thought. Nevertheless, I'm first going to get rid of this, because that's good lore for their deck. Going to just ramp a bit, just get a land out. We'll go get a swamp just in case we get like a Tibalt or something like that. And then here, I think I'm just going to pass the turn and see what they try to cast. Like I said, I'm saving the Prismari command for when they make their man land, essentially. Though, if we can discard this, there is a world where we... Sure. Here I'm just probably going to... I just get Teaching of the Arcades, legit. Because they're drawing cards, and they probably only have like 1 or 2 plays, essentially, so we're going to get a lot of card draw from this. We're gonna get 3 in the noggin. Makes sense. And hey, let's draw some cards. Perfect. We also have to keep in mind we do have Lear. There we go. That's what I was waiting for. Wait, I thought it was a free 2. Oh, no, it's a free. What am I thinking? Well, it can't be bounced with that. So, well, actually, we have 1, 2, 3... No, actually, we can do this. Hang on, watch this. Okay, so we're going to create a treasure, and we'll deal 2 damage. Our opponent's probably wondering what's going on here. Then we do this again, but this time deal 2 damage and draw some cards. Okay, that was a cool sequence. Yes! Let's see if our opponent has like a Village Rites or something like that, or a Deadly Dispute. Also, we do want to get rid of cards like this because they're graveyard hate, and we do like our graveyard a lot, as you could probably tell, so... Here, we're going to discard the Mirror Hall Mimic, as well as the Spike Field Hazard. Because I got an idea. Do we have enough mana for this idea, though? First, we gotta check. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, before we execute on this idea, this is actually a pretty good sequence for us here. Ooh, Patient Zero is such a good card. Oh boy. Okay, no pressure. think here we have to bounce. Get this. Cast this. Oh, whoops. Need to play the land. Whoopsies. And then cast this. I'm so surprised we haven't seen like a Necro Duality or something like that yet. Our opponent destroys the mainland. Makes perfect sense with their deck design. We'll just go get a island. And are they going to go into the attacking mode? The answer is no, it seems. Which is good for us. First things first. I'm going to do 1 damage to this. At least attempt to. Okay, so Fading Hope this first. You know, I that'd be a bad idea. Fading Hope this. Then we have access to 2 red mana, which we're just probably gonna do to just... Wait, why did it... No pressure. Oh, yeah, this is going to be a little bit, how do the poets put it? A little close for comfort? Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. They do that for obvious reasons, and we do have to block for obvious reasons. So yeah, block. Block. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. First thing, we're going to cast this without a sweat because we do need the life and get the last basic out of our deck. Next, we are going to bounce this to their hand. That for a rainy day. And... can I sequence this to where I can remove everything without having to quote unquote maybe. I wonder if this is what they... I wonder what this is what it feels like to be in the zombie movies, where you have to, like, hack and slash to survive and such. It's like, must... Pretty much, all zombies must be pretty much in a state of not staying alive, so to speak. But yeah, I'm just now imagining Lear as kind of like a... pretty much Ash, pretty much dealing with all the necrolites. Now, the catch-22 we do have to deal with now is, they still have access to that board wipe, so they're probably going to use it to destroy the Lear. I think it's a safe bet. Yep. Hey, Tibalt. Okay. Let's see what we...
Here's Tibalt.
I mean, Hellrider is not bad. Cast Hellrider. Actually, this is going to be kind of hilarious. Because we can Ghastly Mercy. Oh, they just cast that just as a removal. Well, fair enough. We'll remove that. We'll get some mana. Let's see, we have 2, 3, 4 mana. Uh-oh. Okay, let's see if we can get a big burn spell. Like that. Because then all we have to do... So that will deal about 6 damage. We technically, all we have to do is deal 6 damage to our opponent here. And GG.
Another one, another one, another one, another one, another one, and another one.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but thanks, Tibalt. Woo! On to the next game. Okay, we're gonna go against the interesting username. Fair enough. Okay, so let's see. Pretty decent hand. We will keep this. Let's see what shenanigans our opponent's playing today. So we're going to play this on blue. That way we can hold up a Fading Hope. Okay. Pass the turn to our opponent. They're playing blue and red. So is it shenanigans, eh? Yep. Actually, that's going to be... Our opponent's... I cannot blame our opponent being like, why did you do that? Can I blame my opponent? Not one bit. Well, let's hope this doesn't get divided by 0. Hey, there we go. Perfect. Tibalt! Okay, so what would be the best play here?
Let fire rage within your heart.
Honestly, plus.
Let's play a little game.
And hold up the divide by 0. Actually, if that's what they're just going to do...
Watch the outfit. It's borrowed.
Here, discard, discard. Okay, the fact that we both had burn down the house on the top of our deck is kind of funny. Okay, but here... Unfortunately, we kind of have to just hold on our divide by 0 here.
Yes. Succumb to chaos. Surely you can handle a little pain? I just love your energy.
Alchemy is there. We have a ton of stuff. But... 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ah, I see what you were trying to do, opponent. 2. Okay, so... We're gonna pass turn. Sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, now we're just going to do this song and dance again. We're just going to pay 1 for this. Trickery it. And see what else we get in our whole 3 spells. I will take a gold span.
And now, with the magic of my
Tibalt's Trickery
card, I'll combine Joey's red eyes with my
unsummoned skull.
a combo! You now face
The Supreme
Gold sand.
Dragon.
Okay, that was pretty good. Saved by Tibalt, yet again. And that is Tibalt Gritz's Shenanigans. I definitely will say there is definitely still a lot of ways you could tinker with this deck. Maybe some more cool late game stuff, or maybe even some expressive iterations, since, you know, is it really like their expressive iterations at the moment? There's definitely some ways you can tinker this list. Overall, I hope you all enjoyed the shenanigans this provide. As stated before, I still have to do one more Tibalt Shenanigans of Trickery deck to just get my cards back, so next week we're going to go to standard with Tibalt's Trickery with more of a reanimator-based approach with the deck design. Nevertheless, I hope you all have a lovely day. As they say, hip hip